This is yet another MBA GOAT, a podcast featuring conversations with the greatest of all-time MBA alumni from the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. We are here to celebrate the outcomes of graduate management education and to identify remarkable examples of how the MBA program here at the Jindal School has transformed the lives of our alumni. Now, here's Lisa Shatz, Assistant Dean for the Jindal School's MBA programs. Take it away, Lisa.
Well, hi, you guys. Welcome to yet another MBA podcast. Today, we have Mike Zamulinski here, and he is a 2020 full-time MBA graduate who is currently a strategy consultant at Deloitte. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
The question I'm going to start with is your background, because I think that's the piece that makes you so interesting. I know when I got my MBA, there wasn't very much diversity in the program I was in. So most people came from either sales or some kind of business analyst background or engineering. We were kind of in three general buckets. Here at UT Dallas, we have quite a bit more diversity than that. And your background is especially non-traditional. So you went from a very non-traditional background to, a relatively traditional finance undergrad, and then to getting your MBA and are now in consulting. So start way back and tell us about your background.
Right. So I went to high school, had dreams of going into law or something like that. And I went to school for a couple of years in upstate New York, at SUNY Geneseo. And I was studying law back then, I was studying pre-law and English, but it wasn't something I was terribly interested in. So I never actually finished a degree there. And I moved to New York City. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance. And I was working in and out of like restaurants and different types of work. I was studying finance for a little bit there, and I did do a great internship at a firm there, but I never really finished my degree. Once again, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do until I moved down to Texas. So I moved down to Texas. I went to UT Arlington. I did my undergraduate in finance, graduated magna cum laude, and then I applied to UTD. I wanted to go to UTD so I could go to a ranked business school, and that's something here in Dallas. And so UTD was the highest ranked business school in the Dallas area. So I wanted to come here, and I did my two graduate degrees, an MBA in strategy and an MS in business analytics. And right out of graduating, I got hired at my dream job as a strategy consultant at Deloitte. So super happy. It worked out for me. Definitely a non-traditional background, but it shows that if you study the right things, you do the right kinds of work, you get the right kinds of experiences, you can have your dreams come true, especially at UTD. I think the program here is fantastic. I could sing praises, but I don't want to get into it too much. But yeah, it was great.
Did you find that when you were talking to employers, whether it was through networking or through the actual interview, that you had to take a little bit of a different approach in your describing your background? Were they very intrigued, or were they a little taken back? Oh, that's different, or that's surprising. And how did you deal with that?
So what I did to kind of handle that situation, because I didn't really want to talk about what I was doing in New York or why I didn't really finish school my first time around. So what I did in my undergrad and during my time at UTD was I built up such a huge repository of experiences that I could talk about anything, right? I started a business. I became a director at a military museum in Fort Worth. I worked so many different internships in corporate finance, in M&A, in accounting. I had so much to talk about that I didn't really have to focus or talk about, why I hadn't been working in the industry that I'm trying to build a profession in, why I had that kind of gap in my experience. Because I had so much great experience and great education, great grades that I could talk about, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I've been doing for the past 5-6 years. And that really helped. And that's the advice I would give to anybody who's in my situation where you're saying, you know what, I want to kind of take a different turn in my life and I'm thinking about going to school. I can't say you're never going to be too old to go to school and turn things around for yourself or to go into a different field if you'd like to, because that's pretty much what I did in my late 20s.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, if you can be strategic going into some of the things you do, whether it's like a class project or an internship. I know a lot of times our students will go into an internship and I'll say, remember, when you come out of the internship, people are going to be asking you about your experiences and what you did while you were there and what you accomplished. So don't just go through it and get to the end and assume you're going to be able to go back. As you're there, make sure you're thinking about, okay, the project I'm working on this week, is this something I can talk to? And if there's a gap, if I can talk about the project I was doing, but I don't really know how to explain where did this project come from? What was the problem that initiated this? I should go back and ask, even if that's not pertinent necessarily to the work I'm doing, so that I have the full picture. And fast forward 3 months, somebody's asking me about it. I can explain that project from beginning to end. So I think sometimes if you think strategically about how can I use this in the future, because at some point I'm going to have to bring this up. It's going to be asked about off my resume. It's going to be in an interview. Somebody's going to ask me a question where I want to use this example. So building that kind of tool belt of stories and knowing you have to do that from the beginning, I think gets you better prepared at the end.
Right. And like to your point, leveraging the resource, because all I really had were internships in my undergrad, my experiences there, and then internships and experiences at UTD. Unfortunately, because of COVID, my internship was canceled, like a lot of us who had lost our internships that summer. However,
that was a terrible summer.
It was, yeah.
That was really
rough. All I did was I took on some extra classes. So I don't know. I think it made the summer worse. Who wants to be studying and taking exams in the summer? But I was able to leverage the resources that our school offered us, right? So I went to the MBA office. I said, okay, I lost my internship. What can I do to build up these experiences that I need to have in order to become an attractive candidate for the consulting industry that I'm trying to break into? And the answer was to actually help start a consulting club at my school, which my class did. Was myself and a couple other students in my MBA class who started a consulting club. And we were able to take on clients during that summer, pro bono clients, small businesses and charities, and actually do work for them in a position of consultants. And we did serious work for them. We had serious results. I led teams, and I was able to put that on my resume and say that I worked as a consultant for the UTD Consulting Leadership and Development Society. And because of that, I was able to talk to that, in my interviews when I graduated. And also, I was able to do another project through my MS in Business Analytics that I did at UTD. That also was consulting for a large New York City-based data analytics company. That was part of our capstone project for that degree. And yeah, there you go. Just like that. Through UTD, I was able to get 2 actual consulting projects under my belt, consulting experiences that helped me break into the industry. I could actually talk smartly and effectively towards those experiences.
So I don't know how connected you still are with that organization, but that club is doing great things still. We have a ton of our students, but really even the master's programs have a lot of students who are involved with that. They're doing a lot of projects, and it's one of the more kind of active organizations. So you started something that is really going on and doing great things.
Yeah, that's great. And honestly, I really can't wait to come back. It's just only been my first year at Deloitte, and I'm still feel like I'm scrambling to figure out what the heck I'm doing and get myself in a position where I can start kind of giving back to the community. But I really was looking forward to going back to the Consulting Society. And I do get people that reach out to me on LinkedIn from UTD who ask me, oh, what can I do to get into a firm like Deloitte or get into consulting? And I tell them, I said, join the society. That's what we created it for. I was able to leverage the society, my experiences there to get into this firm. I tell them, do the same thing. go in there, go in as a consultant, or better yet, if you can do a leadership position and take on more responsibility, and go for it, because it's a great opportunity. It's a great program. And like I said, I can't wait to come back and see what they're doing.
So let me ask you a little bit about the second degree, because I think most of our listeners have probably heard other students talk about a double degree, but we have 12 master's degrees that you can do a double degree with our MBA. And you get a discount on the number of classes you have to take. So generally 2 degrees, which would normally be 53 and 36, you can do both for a minimum of 63. Some of the degrees take a little bit more, but usually somewhere about 63 or a little bit more. What made you decide to do the double degree? Was that very strategic, where you were kind of thinking, if I want to be in consulting, these are the skills they're looking for? Or was there something else that drove you to make that decision?
In my time in undergrad and through the different internships I was doing there, I could see that. So I worked in almost every function in corporate finance you could, right? Via internships and a fellowship that I was a part of as well. And so working in finance, in financial analysis, business analysis, accounting, audit, M&A on a corporate side, and M&A on the banking side for another internship that I did. I learned that there's a lot of technology that's automating a lot of functions in finance. There's a lot of business solutions out there, not just through the ERP systems like SAP or Oracle software, but also through like dashboarding softwares like Power BI. And so I ultimately said that I want to be a part of that digital transformation. I found it to be really exciting. And so coming into UTD, I said, yeah, I would like to do 2 degrees. My undergrad was in finance, just general business finance. So I didn't know anything about really computer programming or that kind of technology. And so I said, let me do a highly technical graduate degree on top of my MBA. And the other thing too that UTD does that's fantastic is the fact that I was able to, for an extra semester, right? So I could do my MBA full-time in a full-time cohort in 3 semesters. But for an extra semester, I can also do that additional master's degree. And of course, I would have to be doing master's classes alongside my MBA classes. So that's a little additional strain on my MBA degree. However, that was super attractive. I mean, the value is incredible. It's really, really good. And yeah, I said it's worth the extra time to make myself a more marketable candidate for the fintech industry. I did study that. And then, of course, going into Deloitte, what I applied for was pretty much finance, technology, strategy. And they hired me, they brought me in, and my first project was exactly what I had been studying and doing at UTD for the past 2 years. I told some of the staff and faculty when I came back that like literally what you had been teaching me, I'm doing right now with a massive Fortune 500 client. And it was so exciting because while the work was challenging because I'm at a new firm, a new client, new teams, I knew the material. I knew what we were doing. I'm like, I had just taken a final exam on this exact material 2 months ago. So it was super exciting, really, really thrilling to know that UTD had prepared me, especially with the 2 degrees, for a career in something that I love and I think is great. So it worked out really, really well.
I think even though it does put a little extra class and a little strain taking those extra classes, I think to some degree, it also lessens the stress from a perspective that it gives students an extra semester to be looking for a job. So I find that even though there's the extra workload of classes, that spring semester seems almost like they've got a little bit of a weight lifted off their shoulders, because instead of, heading into the holidays and knowing, I'm heading toward the end, I've got to, 5 classes, I've got to finish up, I've got finals, and I'm trying to interview. It allows them to take that extra semester to really be networking and talking to employers and applying for things. So I think there's some pluses and minuses, but just so our listeners know, we have about 50% of our full-time MBA students are actually doing a double degree at this point. So it's actually just tipped the scales to where we generally have slightly more doing a double degree than not doing a double degree. So those are really, really popular.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about the whole looking for a job, because normally I'm a really bad procrastinator. And I wait until the last minute. But one thing ETD taught me was that you don't have time to procrastinate, especially when you're looking for a great job. You have to start early. So I had been applying pretty much the summer before I graduated, right? So I started applying for jobs in 2020, knowing that I was going to graduate in the spring of 2021. And yeah, I had options. By the time it came around to graduation, I already had several job offers, but I was holding back because they were not what I had been wanting to do. Of course, I had job offers because UTD is an attractive target for employers. I mean, the students come out there, they're really smart. So I don't think I had a difficult time finding, a job or finding offers, but it was nice to have the extra semester for me to actually shop around and finally buy something that I would absolutely love, like what I have now.
And it couldn't have been more perfect.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by the UT Dallas MBA program, top ranked nationally and in Texas. The UT Dallas MBA combines a robust core with 13 concentrations. You have an option to add a second master's degree, and your choices for that include 5 STEM-designated programs. The MBA program has full-time, part-time, online, and other formats. They give you flexibility to fit your MBA education into your busy schedule. The skills and training you will receive are what top employers are looking for. For more information, visit us online at jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.
So switching gears a little bit, I'm going to switch to a topic that I think that you'd be really strong to talk about, and that's grit. I think your background gave you a lot of grit. I think the fact that you drove an insane amount just to get to class, but you were always still in class, shows that you have grit. And I think our program brings a lot of people from maybe backgrounds where they had to work pretty hard to get where they are. And I think our program kind of opens a lot of opportunities for people who are willing to do the work to make those things possible. So talk a little bit about what you saw in your peers, in your classmates, and the interaction you had with them.
Well, first off, I myself, was definitely doing a lot of driving. I was living at the time in Mansfield, Texas, which is south of Fort Worth. And let's see, my commute would be about an hour and 20 minutes without any traffic. But in rush hour traffic, it was over 2 hours. So I would have to get up at like 3:00 in the morning so I could be on the road by about 4:30, so I could beat the rush hour traffic. Because in Dallas, rush hour does start at about 4:30 and it lasts until about 8:00 or 8:30. And I had to take 7 different highways to get to Richardson. And yeah, that was pretty wild. And I did that for a full semester before COVID hit. But my drive was to not only get to school, to learn and to better my future, but also just spend time with the amazing classmates I had. I don't know if it's necessarily specific to UTD. I think it's specific perhaps to high quality MBA programs like the ones we have at UTD that attract hardworking people that you can learn a lot from and are going to give back to you and teach you resiliency, teach you skills, make you really humble yourself, because you think you're the hardest working person there, and you walk in and you realize, no, you're not. You're not that special. You're in a room with 50 other people over the next 2 years who work just as hard or harder than you. And that was a really humbling experience, but it was great too, because I made great friends. We could share war stories about how hard we all are working to get to where we are. And of course, now that we're all graduated, it's great to keep up on LinkedIn or see each other at the office or something, knowing that we all work that hard.
Okay, so the next round is called the lightning round, and I'm going to ask you some questions, but the whole idea is just blurt out what comes to your mind. So don't overthink it. What was your funniest moment in the program? Or maybe I should say funnest moment or funniest, either one.
So my funnest moment at the program was when we went to Boulevard and I got to meet my cohort for the first time. I got to bring in my fiance. All of us were allowed to bring in a +1. And so we all got to meet each other's spouses and families. And it was a lot of fun. That was great. Unfortunately, because we had to go virtual for COVID, I did miss out on that. But those of you who are lucky to go to UTD now, you're going to have lots of great experiences like that. So I'm jealous that you do.
Yeah, and we're actually making up for lost time. So we're kind of doing double events because we had so much time we didn't do any. So we're We're kind of going from event to event lately.
That's awesome.
What are 3 adjectives you would use to describe your time here?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what an adjective is for drinking from a fire hose.
That counts.
But yeah, I guess just a lot of learning, enriching, and preparatory perhaps, or preparational. Like it really prepared me for my job and for my career.
Given that you're a consultant, the next question is kind of a case question. Estimate how many cups of coffee you drank during your just under 2 years here.
Well, so I am a consultant. I'm very bad at case interviews. But let's see. What was the question? How many cups of coffee will fit into an airplane?
Yeah, that was the question.
So, yeah, I probably drank that many my first year there. But yeah, I was chugging like 3 cups of coffee. We had one guy in my class who kept making them and bringing them in. So, and they had that little Keurig machine there. So we're drinking quite a few.
It took me years to get my habit down to a manageable level after my MBA. What is a bad habit you picked up during the program, or a habit you had that got worse? And then after that, what is a good habit you picked up in the program, or it got better during the program?
Oh man, bad habit that got worse. I know it's supposed to be a lightning round. I can't even think of it. Let's see. A bad habit that I've had was procrastination coming in. And I think it got worse because my leadership skills got better. So I was able to procrastinate further by getting other people to do my work for me. That sounds pretty bad, but that really happened. And then, so yeah, I got great leadership skills that helped get me into my job because they said, wow, you're a great leader. But then coming in as a consultant, I was back to kind of working on my own, being at the bottom of the totem pole of this firm. And suddenly I didn't have anybody to do work for me. Every now and then I get an analyst, but other than that, I had to kind of unlearn that bad habit and become much better at doing my own work.
And what is your favorite thing about your new life?
Honestly, I think my income. I think the fact that I have what I've always wanted in terms of not just material things, but I can live a very comfortable life. I have a fantastic job. And yeah, why did I go to UTD? Why did I go get an MBA? It was to increase my income and to get into a firm that pays very, very well. And I did achieve those goals. And I had a beautiful fiance coming in. She's still with me. I don't know why. But we're finally earning the money we want. We have our dream jobs and we have each other. I have my dream home too. I mean, I could see the campus from where I live. It's fantastic.
So you had a fiance coming into the program. I heard fiance a lot of times through the program. When is that going to switch to talking about your wife?
So honestly, I was so happy coming to UTD. It was a life, it was a dream of mine to actually get into a great MBA program. So I wanted us to get married while we were doing, while I was doing my MBA. And unfortunately with COVID, everything had to get put on hold. So as soon as I graduated, I got my dream job in a very demanding industry. So I wanted to feel a little bit more comfortable before we got married. So we'll try to do it next year, or this coming year, I guess you could say. Now that I finished my first year at Deloitte. So
good. Well, we have something to look forward to.
Thank you.
and now we'll see. Are you really procrastinating, or you keep that habit? We're going to judge it based on your wedding day. Thanks so much for catching up with me today.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much for bringing me in. I'm so happy to be back. Like I said, program's been fantastic. You all helped me make my dreams come true. You gave me the tools and the experiences. You gave me a great class of people to spend time with for 2 years and learn from, and it's got me to where I am today. So I'm just incredibly thrilled to have had the opportunity to speak with you again.
And now you're out there paying it back by making us look good.
Oh, thank you. Doing my best.
We are so glad you could join us today and hear about the journey of yet another MBA GOAT. For me, my MBA was truly transitional, as it is for so many of our students. If you're wondering where an MBA can take you, reach out to us and let's talk about you. email us at mba@utdallas.edu and feel free to ask for me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of yet another MBA GOAT podcast. Join us online at mbagoat.com to find episode notes, links, and more. Be sure to subscribe to yet another MBA GOAT podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review. That will help spread the word about the podcast and the Jindal School's MBA programs. To learn more about the Jindal School's MBA programs, go to jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.